I work as a static site security in the production site, located in the countryside. It dominates the outskirts of a sleepy little village that everybody seems to pass by, but nobody ever stays. My job is quite monotonous. Every day people stop by my little office booth window to sign paperwork, get clearance and other things as they go about their day. Some people stop by for a chat if it's a particularly slow day. However, things become more interesting once the sun goes down. Recently, I decided to check the camera feeds from the various security cams strategically placed around the site. One of the few jobs directly related to security. It helped pass the time, you know. Don't get me wrong, I don't mind handing out keys and paperwork to people. But if you get trained on a certain set of skills like I am, you're going to want to use said skills at least a few times in your career. Everything seemed ordinary that night. Camera feeds check okay, and the personnel who did patrol prior to my shift said this side was clear. That is, until a few hours later. Around 1:47, I was scrolling past the camera feeds for what it seemed like the 20th time. Cameras 1 through 5 all check clear so far. As I wrote it down in my report, the feed switched into camera 6. It was a weird angle, and the resolution was grainy and looked like shit. I thought there must be some kind of interference in the cables or something. I went out for a quick patrol to get a better look. Looked pretty normal. Just the usual boring old place I've worked at for a few years now. Some people might feel uneasy or paranoid patrolling such a huge site at night. I was too at first. Especially when you start to find weird stuff lying about. Random pieces of clothing, strange looking stains. This one time, I actually found several spent shotgun shells just scattered on the grass. I freaked out big time when I found it. Turns out the site owner likes to bring his friends in to take shots at occasional pheasants, squirrels, random vermin that wander into the site. I was lost in my thoughts when I reached camera 6 on the far side of the site, facing outwards into the nearby fields. More like a mini forest, really. It was slightly off by a few inches. No wonder I couldn't get a good feed quality from the desk. It looked like something hit it pretty hard and it got stuck. I tried poking it with a stick to move it, or at least get it unstuck from that angle. These things have been going on for years now. I have repeatedly told management about this and they said they're looking into getting a replacement. That was 6 months ago. Never mind the important stuff like the security cameras, as long as their dumbass proposals are followed through. Too much of the smaller employees' annoyance, including myself. I managed to get it moving, joint giving out a tiny little squeak as flakes of rust rained down. I moved out of the way to avoid most of it, brushing my shirt down. I decided to walk back to my booth for some cup of noodles or soup, whichever fits my fancy. Suddenly I heard some rustling behind me from a spot beyond the light. I quickly turned and pointed my flashlight to where I thought it came from. Nothing. Didn't bother me too much. There's a lot of animals out here in the countryside, especially at night. No wonder my boss and his friends like playing safari here. When I reached my booth, I decided to cook up some cup noodles. While I waited for 3 minutes for it to cook, I double-checked the camera feed one by one. All looked fine, till I reached that particular camera pointing to the outskirts. It still had a bit of a static. I tried adjusting via remote to save me walking down the second time. It worked, but it was a little stiff. Must need a good deal of oiling, I thought to myself as I took a sip of my noodles, mentally preparing to ask one of the guys to do it tomorrow. But I was immediately interrupted. The camera visibly shook and turned a few degrees to a previously unseen angle near the darker parts of the field. There stood what seemed like a rough-looking figure, tattered clothing facing away from the camera. Spilled my cup of noodles all over my pants. Shit. I cried as I tried wiping the mess away with a paper towel while wincing in pain. the camera view kept turning. The controls must have been stuck. I tried turning the camera back into that angle to get a second look, but in the few seconds it took to get the camera angle back, the figure was gone. I remembered to check the video replay to verify I wasn't hallucinating. I wished I was. The figure was there, tattered clothes and everything. Upon closer inspection, it didn't even look like clothes, just plain rags. I muttered under my breath. I knew I had to go on another patrol, but not without notifying the main office first. Told them what happened, and despite telling them it's not a joke, they just sounded irritated to be bothered at this time of night. I told them I'd go on another patrol just to check it out, but I expected some kind of response, or I'm calling the police myself. After using up most of my wipes to get rid of the noodle stains, I ventured out into the outskirts of the site to confront this will-be trespasser. I scoured the fields with my flashlight as far as I could see, but I found no disturbed grass, no tracks, nothing. Nothing except the camera staring at me with that cold metallic eye. Once again, those nature sounds are the only thing I heard in the background. Some light rustling turned out to be just a breeze on the trees upon closer inspection. Quite shaken and pretty pissed off at myself for such a stupid mistake, I stomped back into my little booth. I hoped there was some cup of noodles left, even though it's probably gone cold by now, especially on a chilly night like this. There's already a hint of frost in the air, and winter seems like it's going to be a bad one. When I got back to my booth, I sat down facing away from the monitor and focused solely on what's left of my noodles. Little did I know, the time I spent slurping the noodles down were the last moments of peace I was going to have for a long time. Get your shit together for fuck's sake, I remember telling myself. Feeling thirsty, I downed half a bottle of water I had with me. I was down to my last gulp when I turned to check the camera feed again. I didn't know whether to shit or piss myself. Probably both. The figure was slowly walking across the camera feed, now on a different angle from before. It was doing a very slow pace, almost like an 80-year-old. It looked so weak and fragile, but its face was again hidden from the angle it was facing. Not to mention the freakish attire the figure wore, if you call it attire. This is the last straw, I thought to myself. Dialed the police hotline and told them what happened. Surely enough, they had a hard time buying my story, but they promised to send somebody over, so that's a plus. I just had to hold out until they arrived, and everything would be back to normal. Back to normal, I said to myself. It didn't take long for me to find the figure out in the open. It seemed to wander aimlessly, completely unaware of its surroundings. It took very small steps, just like a feeble old lady would. Every few seconds it would twitch slightly, like it was adjusting itself. It would have looked quite vulnerable if not for its freakish appearance. The camera feed didn't do it justice. In all my years of working as security, I've never been so rattled by somebody just standing there with their back toward me. I tried to creep silently for a closer look. I chose my steps very carefully, trying to make as little noise as possible. As I got closer, I noticed the figure was mumbling something to itself. The closer I got, the clearer the words became. He is waiting outside. That's all it was saying. The fuck, I thought to myself, is this a tweaker? How high is this guy? He will awaken soon. The figure croaked between strange clicks that seemed to be like silent growls. Just as I was about to grab the figure by the shoulder, it turned toward me, and it let out a roaring shriek. It sounded like nothing I've ever heard before. This thing can't be normal. Fuck this, I screamed. I clawed my way out of there, trying to get back into the most secure place I could think of, my booth. I didn't even bother to look back until I reached my secure area. It didn't look like the figure noticed me or even went after me. I fumbled to lock and bolt the door before rushing to my desk and dialing the main office. "There's some weird shit going on down here, man," I said. I started as soon as I heard somebody pick up. I told them about what I saw, and that I've already called for the police. No response. Hello, I said. The line was dead. The bastards cut me off mid-call. "Fucking cunts," I yelled. Smashed the phone down on the receiver. I was pacing back and forth, trying to calm myself down. I constantly checked the window, trying to spot the figure, see if it somehow found where I ran and hid. Nothing. Not really wanting to, but seemed like I had no choice. I checked the camera feeds again. I've never checked the camera so thoroughly in my career as I did that time. Every angle, every observable nook and cranny. I looked everywhere I could, but there was no sign of it. Suddenly, another piercing shriek ran somewhere around the side. I jumped out, looking outside my window, as much as the view would allow. How I wish I had something I could use with me. Who the fuck decided security can't be armed anyway, I thought to myself. I was ripped from my thoughts when I glimpsed into the feed. The figure was facing right in front of the camera, with its head lowered. Holy fuck, I screamed and jumped back, crashing into the various machinery and office stuff behind me. I fumbled for whatever I thought I could use as a weapon and held it in front of me. In my right hand, I managed to grab a rusty letter opener. In my left, a fork. A fucking fork. The figure slowly lifted its head toward the camera, tattered sheets of cloth and bits of hair falling away, to reveal a vision of nightmares. The figure, this thing, not human at all, an inky bulbous head with what looked like small wiggling appendages or legs growing from where the hair would have been. The empty pits where the eyes should be made me feel emptiness and alien despair. I couldn't see any eyes, but I knew it was looking right into my soul. The broken bits of orifice, which probably counted as a mouth, had several moving parts which may have been the source of the strange clicking that I heard earlier. It only lasted a few moments, but it felt like time stood still in that place. Even the air felt stale and dead. Without warning, the thing opened its mouth parts and shrieked at me. It was so loud that I thought it was right there in front of me, and not behind on the other side of the camera. Strange outlines appeared to be writhing behind the closed shutters, wanting to get in. Inhuman squeals and gleeful chattering. The windows shattered. As if on cue, all the power died. At the same time, all hell broke loose. I screamed, I cried, I fought, I laughed, then screamed again. Nothing made sense anymore. Just an overwhelming sense of dread and insanity took over me. Madness was all there was in the dark. No pain, no fear, no thought. When I came to, I was slumped over on the floor covered in what I assumed to be blood and guts. Whether it was mine or not, I wasn't sure. The lights were back on, although the place was in tatters. In the fog of my mind, I vaguely remembered the panicked madness that befell in that cursed moment. I wearily looked around me, too nervous to make any sudden movements. Gathering my wits and my willpower, I shakily got to my feet and listened, kept my breath to a minimum. Although my heart was racing 1,000 miles an hour, the eerie silence stretched as if in the aftermath of a passing storm or some horrific disaster. I had no strength left in me to look at the camera feed. All of a sudden, 3 sharp knocks. I whirled around, eyes wide, ready to take on the source of the sound. It was an elderly man, at least over 70 years old. He was sharply dressed in a black suit, complete with a black tie, neatly combed, although receding salt and pepper hair. He smiled as soon as our eyes met. Guten Morgen, mein Freund. He spoke with a heavy German accent. He took a quick look around me through the glass window and gave me another smile. Can we talk? He asked. I stammered yes, and asked him who he was. And I would have felt ridiculous brandishing my covered fork if not for my recent ordeal. My name is Metzger, Dr. Metzger, he said after a quick pause. I was made aware of your little situation here, and I believe you could use our assistance, he stated in a very matter-of-fact way as I took in his words. There was something. I saw something. I cried out, panic creeping into my voice. The doctor held up a gloved hand to calm me down. He told me to rest easy, and that they had already taken care of it. He told me this, continuing to try to calm me down. I asked him who he meant by we. Questions starting to fill my head. Who is this mysterious man? What does he have to do with what I witnessed? He said the organization, with a smile. I thought I could muster the strength to raise my voice. I wanted answers. He asked me if I'd like to find out more. And that's all I can tell you. Your man can tell you the rest.